Our guest on the Motivation Show today is known as the voice of summer love and is a pioneer of rock and roll. He sang one of my favorite songs. In fact, it's probably one of almost everybody's favorite songs and one of the great classics of all time, as it is on every karaoke song sheet, Sealed with a Kiss, which has probably been sung billions of times in karaoke and which admittedly I rarely do justice for when I sing it on karaoke. Our guest's journey through music is nothing short of legendary. At the right young age of just 16, he skyrocketed to stardom with his infectious hit, Itsy Bitsy Teenie Weenie Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. Boy, that's a mouthful. Claiming the coveted #1 spot across the nation and earning him a prestigious gold record. But this was just the beginning of a remarkable musical odyssey. Alongside the dynamic duo of Gary Geld and Peter Udell, he had hits like Let Me Belong to You, Ginny Come Lately, the world phenom that we talked about, Sealed with a Kiss, and Warmed Over Kisses, solidifying his status as a household name. He collaborated with luminaries such as Snuff Garrett, Leon Russell, and J.J. Cale, delivering hits like The Joker Went Wild and Run, Run, Look and See, which soared into the top 20 on the charts. Welcome to the Motivation Show, Brian Hyland.
Thank you, Eli.
I think that might have been one of the longest bios I've ever read, because you go on and on and on with your career. It's quite extraordinary.
I started off when I was 16, like you said.
Well, I'll tell you, what happened before that?
Well, before I grew up in Queens, part of New York City, and I guess I was singing in my house with my brothers, and we used to sing the Everly Brothers songs when they became popular. And my brothers had a barbershop quartet, and there was always music.
Yeah, so Unchained Melody and all those great classics, right, of the 60s, I guess, influenced you.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah.
Well, we have something in common. I also grew up in Queens. What are the odds of that, huh? I was a Flushing, Queens boy.
In Flushing. Well, see, I grew up in Woodhaven.
Yeah, well, that's right around the corner practically. You know, my football team was so bad they call us the Flushing Toilets. Bada bing.
That's good.
That's why now you know why I keep my day job here as podcasting, get out of the comedy business. But yeah, Flushing was a great place to grow up in the good old days. There's New York City's, largest borough. And so what was it like for you growing up? And when did this music bug actually germinate in you?
Well, I guess when the rock and roll started getting popular, and I was listening to Alan Freed on the radio on WINS in New York, and I gravitated towards that. And in my neighborhood, I guess I was about 15, and we had a doo-wop group, so we would sing, like they say, on the street corner, and we used to practice songs. And then we thought maybe we'll take it a step higher. And we made a demo record over in Manhattan, took the subway over there. And then one of the guys in the group, he said, well, let's see if a record company would actually listen to our demo. And we took it around to different offices, but we didn't make appointments. We just walk in. So we were very unsophisticated in that way. But we met somebody on an elevator, and it was a businessman, and he said, listen, what are you guys doing? And so we explained that we had a demo record, and he said, well, over at the Brill building, which was actually a pretty big in the music business, there was a lot of publishing companies and managers and agents. So we went over there, and we went to specific office that he gave us. The name was Sammy Kaye, who was a band leader from the 1930s and the 40s. And so his arranger listened to the demo and said, well, we're not really looking for groups, but we like the way that you sing, Brian. So maybe you could think about being a soloist. And so I thought about it for about a minute, and I said, yeah, right. Okay, I'll be a soloist. And the guys in the group, they just said, go for it. And so there wasn't any problem there. And so that's basically, then I started cutting demo records, which is, well, I've used that word a lot, but demos in those days, publishing companies, you'd go into a studio, maybe with a couple of musicians, with a new song, and songwriters would do that, and they would get groups of musicians to do these demos, and then they would take those to the A&R people at record companies to pitch the song. So I did one, and it was called Rosemary. That was the name of the song. And they took it around. It got sent all over to the West Coast, everywhere. And then eventually they brought it to Cap Records. And Cap Records, they liked it. And they said, well, we like this song, but who's doing the demo? And they said, well, that's Brian Hyland. He works in he's our office boy. So they said, well, we like his style, and we'd like to recut this song with him as a master recording and release it. So that was my break.
Breaking into the music business is not an easy thing to do. How has the music business, you feel, changed today? And could you have broken into the music business as easily today? How would it have worked?
It's totally different now because it's so open with YouTube and with all the different platforms that people can put music up on, that there's so many artists, so it's hard to actually be different or be, and so I'm really at a loss to tell you how someone would do that today. But the advice that I give people when they ask a question like that, I tell them to get a good set list of songs that they like, and work them out, maybe 7, 8 songs, and either on a piano or with a guitar, and that's a starting point.
So you started out with this phenomenal hit at the tender age again of 16, which is remarkable. Takes some artists decades before they get off the ground and running. What year was that recorded? And how did that song and those iconic lyrics come about?
Well, it was in 1960. That was the year that it came out and was a hit. And the story about how it came about was the songwriter, the lyricist, was a guy named Paul Vance. And Paul Vance was at Jones Beach. You know where that is?
Oh, yeah. Tree Park. I fished there.
He was there with his young daughter, who was very young. I don't know, 3 or 4 years old. And he was observing her, how shy she was acting because she had a bathing suit on, and little boys were pointing at her and laughing. And, he took that all in, and then he got that idea. So on the way home, driving home to where they lived in Long Island, he wrote the whole song. He wrote all of the lyrics for the song. And then after he had that, then he talked to his partner, which was Lee Pockers, who was also a really good songwriter. And he wrote the melody, and they had it.
So I'd like to get some chronology after that. So how long did it take for your next hit song, and what song was that?
Well, the following year, I was on the charts again with a song called Let Me Belong to You. And Let Me Belong to You was written by Gary Gillett and Peter Udell. And so I worked with them quite a lot. And that song was very, at the time, when I recorded it, I didn't think of it as being anything more than a love song or a romantic song. But if the lyrics, the opening line is, make me your slave, tie me down, make me behave, let me belong to you. So it's kind of like questionable today because everything is dissected.
I'm amazed they let you play it back then.
Yeah, they did. Dick Clark played it on American Bandstand. He loved that song.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it was I guess, just accepted as a love song, and people didn't make more of it. But anyway, it went up to number 20 on the Billboard charts, and so then we recorded again. The next song we did was "Jeannie Come Lately," and "Jeannie Come Lately" also made it to number 21 or 20, but it became a huge hit over in Europe. In England, it was in the top 3, and in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, and all like Northern European countries. It was a big hit.
I won't stop you if you want to sing any of the lyrics to any of these things.
Well, "Jeannie Come Lately" was "I only met you just a couple of days ago." That's it's a beautiful song. And so then after that, we went back into the studio and we recorded "Seal with a Kiss." That was
What year was that?
1962.
Mm-hmm.
And "Seal with a Kiss" was I think Gary said that it was based on not totally, but on Bach finger exercise. He was really good pianist. And so when that song came out, I was at the session where they mixed it down after they were, we were all finished recording it and they were mixing it. And they gave me an acetate, is what they called. Like, they made it right there in the studio. And the following day, I was starting a tour with Del Shannon, Runaway, and the Belmonts.
Runaway. Right. The Belmonts? Dion and the Belmonts?
Not Dion.
Just the Belmonts.
It was just Angelo, Freddie, and Carlo.
Yeah.
And so I had to fly to Chicago to meet the tour. That's where it started off, and it was all in the Midwest for the most part. And so it was about 2 weeks later, I was at this place, and I got it on my shirt here, the Surf Ballroom.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
In
Iowa.
Clear Lake, Iowa. And so we were there in the afternoon to do a sound check. I walked out, and I walked to an A&W root beer stand, which was right close by. And I'm standing there, I'm waiting. I ordered a root beer float or something like that. And all of a sudden, I heard my song, "Seal with a Kiss," on the radio playing at the A&W root. And that's the first time I heard it. So I called the producers, Gary and Peter, and I said, "Hey, you won't believe this, but I just heard "Seal with a Kiss" on the radio out here in Iowa." And they said, "Well, are you sitting down?" I said, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Well, we shipped out 70,000 records this week. So it's going to be a monster." And so that was that. And that's what it turned into an international hit also.
Are you surprised by the success of that song? I mean, did you have a feeling up front like this is going to be a monster? Or was it to you just like an...
Yeah, I liked the song itself. Mm-hmm. The words were very nice, and they
was it about anybody in particular? Somebody that you were thinking of kissing or kissed? Or
I hate to say it, but it was a song, and I learned the song, so I didn't. Maybe I had fantasies of different girls. But
yeah,
but that was of course. But the way that the song, it was in 2 parts. I had to learn the melody and the harmony. I learned the harmony as like a separate song, and that's the way they wanted to do it. So then we recorded the melody, that part first. Then we went back into a different studio with the tapes, and they played it back, and there was an empty track, and then I did the harmony. I put the harmony part on, which I had learned separately, and it came off really good, I thought. And it was just a beautiful song.
Can we get a little a cappella here? In a little chorus or something?
Gotta say goodbye for the summer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I said in my intro for you, I've sang it quite a few times in karaoke. I probably should have saved it for the shower, but it was worth making a fool of myself. It's that good of a song. And so after "Sealed with a Kiss," what came next?
Well, after Seal with a Kiss, I did a country type song called Warmed Over Kisses and Leftover Love. And that went all the way up to number 20, I think number 20 again. And then right at that point in time, or the following year, you had the British invasion of all the musical acts from England, and kind of knocked everything down for a lot of
Herman's
American
Hermits and
artists.
all those bands, right?
The Searchers, the Zombies,
Yeah.
Jerry and the Pacemakers,
Yep.
of course, the Beatles. And I'll tell you a story. I was at I I think yeah, it was later in 1963, and I was at American Bandstand to perform on there, and I was sitting in Dick Clark's office, and he wasn't there, and I was waiting for him to come in, and he had a pile of records on his desk about maybe a foot high of
45s?
of 45s of
Yeah.
all the latest 45s that the promotion people would bring in and wanted him to play. So I'm looking at all these records, and I see one there that I recognized, and it was the Beatles. And I recognized that they were, because when I was in earlier that year, I was in England on a tour in February, and they were playing "Please Please Me," that had just come out. It was zooming up the charts. It was a great record, and I kind of followed them a little bit after that. Other songs that they did. Anyway, so when Dick Clark came in, I said, Dick, the Beatles, they're going to be big. They're going to be huge. When I was in England, this was all I heard on the radio, on all the press, on television. They were all talking about the Beatles. And I said, they're really good. They play their own instruments and they write their own songs. And so Dick Clark picked up the record. And he said, you want it? It's yours. And later he said that he never saw that coming. That was something he really missed. And it was, but I guess that's the way the music business is. Sometimes you don't hear it.
And that's something else, huh? Something that could be a global phenomenon, and before it
He didn't see
actually
it. He
takes
didn't
off,
see
you
that,
don't
that
see it,
as
right?
something important. Yeah.
Especially someone like him, right? Who's been around music his entire life. He didn't see that. So
Yeah.
tell me what it's like performing. Here you are on American Bandstand, which at the time, you didn't have cable channels. Like, you either watched American Bandstand or you didn't watch and listen to music. That was it on TV.
Right.
What is it like performing, and how do you not or did you have jitters? How do you maintain your
Uh,
calm?
I don't know. I think when I first started on stage, the very first time, I had sort of jitters. Then once I did it once, I got over it, and I never thought about it. So once they announce your name and you walk out, then you're in your own world.
So your meteoric rise continues, and you have a monumental success with a Curtis Mayfield hit, Gypsy Woman, and a timeless anthem that resonated globally, selling over 3 million copies. And you talked about before, the legendary Del Shannon produced it, who was known for his mega hit Runaway. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Gypsy Woman, Del and I had been writing songs together. I was living in California at that point, and we did a session for independently and brought it to Uni Records, and they released it. And the song that we wanted them to push was called "Could You Dig It?" But nothing really happened with that. It was a good song. Then we went back in, and that got me a contract with Uni Records, which is actually MCA-UMG. And so we went back in, and we had a bunch of different songs. We had about 3 or 4 songs. And then at the last minute, we thought, well, we should have an ace in the hole, something that like an oldie put in there. And we were going over different ideas. And I thought about these gypsies that I used to run into walking up to the Brill building, and they would always be like sitting on a porch, on a stoop in a brownstone, and they would start waving to me as I was walking by and blowing kisses and whispering things. So just out of the blue, I thought of those gypsy girls, and then it came. I said, yeah, that's it, Gypsy Woman. That's the song that Curtis Mayfield with the impressions. And so that was the one. So when we finished them and brought them up to the record company, they said, that's the one, Gypsy Woman. That's the one
So,
that we're going to push.
so, you have a penchant for a lot of reinvention, it seems, and it's shown brightly with your rendition of Jackie Wilson's Lonely Teardrops. Tell us about that song.
Well, I was on a show with Jackie Wilson at 1961 at the Brooklyn Paramount, and he was a great performer. And every time he was on stage, I'd be on the side of the stage watching him, and he was something else, really. I mean, and the audience just loved him, and he had all the moves. And I think he used to be a boxer, the way he moved on stage. And his voice never failed him. He was just, and I always liked that particular song. I like the idea of, Lonely Teardrops. And so we thought in the same vein as with Gypsy Woman, that a song from that era we could redo and change around a little bit.
You mentioned at Brooklyn Paramount. Did you get to meet Alan Freed?
No, when I was there, it was not cousin Brucey, Murray the K, or Murray Kaufman. He was he was hot in New York at that time. And, there was a lot of people on that show. Etta James was on that show. And also Jerry.
At last.
Yeah, she was doing that song. And Jerry Lee Lewis was on it. He was on the show.
Great balls of fire.
Yeah. And I got to meet him, talk to him a couple of times there. And he was a real Southern guy from Memphis. And I think, but he's maybe from Louisiana originally. But and he was a very funny person. And I'll tell you a story that he was talking to someone backstage once, and I just happened to overhear. He said, when I'm on a show, no matter who's on the show, or wherever I am in the set list or the lineup, when I finish my set, that's the end of the show.
Boy, that's cocky, huh?
But he had super confidence.
Yes. And he was that good.
Yes, he was. He
was extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a rare air to have that kind of confidence and know, like, I'm the bomb, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Close the show with me.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah. So you talked about Louisiana, and I understand you actually moved in 1977 to New Orleans to work with Allen Toussaint.
Yes,
tell us a little, and you worked on an album with Brian. You both worked on in a state of Bayou. Tell us about that.
Well, about the songwriting, I was there's a misnomer out there. I wrote all of the songs that I've written by myself, except the ones I wrote with Del Shannon. And so I was living down there and worked with Allen Toussaint on an album. And, I got to know him a little bit, and he was a really a loved figure in the New Orleans society. And just, when he would drive around, people would wave to him wherever he was. Hi, Alan. He was a luminary, I guess you could say, in the New Orleans group of people. Yeah. And he was, he wrote he had this one song he wrote called Mother-in-Law. I think it was recorded by Ernie K. Doe. And Ernie K. Doe was in his office, and he was going to, they were going over material for him to record. And Ernie K. Doe was sitting right next to the trash bin. And he looked in and he says, "What's this?" And he picked it up, and it says Mother-in-Law. And Alan had written the song, and he threw it away. He threw it in the trash. He didn't like it. And Ernie K. Doe said, I like this song. And it was a huge hit. And Alan just didn't see it. But when Ernie K. Doe picked up on something about it, that they went in and did it, and it was a hit.
So After 60 years since the release of Sealed with a Kiss, I understand that you reunite with Peter Udell, and Peter pens a Christmas song, and he invites you along to record it. The song is titled "A Little Bit of Christmas Time," and was released at the end of November 2023. That sounds like a lot of fun. What Christmas song is it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I went up there I reunited basically with Peter. I hadn't spoken to him or anything for years and years. And I went up there with my wife, Kathleen, to his house. He invited us up for lunch because I was doing a show in Philadelphia and a doo-wop show. So the next day we went up there and, as all songwriters do, oh, I got this song. You want to hear this? I just got this great song. And he played about maybe 10 or 15 different songs. And he's got a Tony Award for stuff that he did Shenandoah for that play. So anyway, it came around to playing the song "A Little Bit of Christmas Time," and when I heard it, I got a chill down my back. Just it was so different and cool. So I told him I want to do this song. So he said, you can do it. And so eventually we got in the studio, we recorded it a couple of different times, and we finally got a really good version with Ron Dante, and who produced Barry Manilow, and we did a really good version of that. Actually, and we did that where I recorded the vocal here in Boca Raton at the Power Station studio. It's up by Costco. And then he did the arrangement, was done by a person in Nashville, and then he did all the production. And when I did the vocals, we did a Zoom call just like we are, and he said, "Okay, do it again, do this a little different." So that's how we did the vocals, and put it all together, and it came out really good. It's a beautiful song.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of guys your age would probably be out there in Hawaii and on some hammock, sipping, nice drinks, and you're still out there gracing stages and studios with your timeless melodies. You've got an incredible legacy as a true icon of the music industry, and seems to only grow stronger with each passing beat here. And you're outperforming, and this is 2026, and you're going to be out. You spoke of Boca Raton. You're going to be at the studio at Mizner Park on February 14th. I'm actually going to go out and hear you personally. And then you're going to be March 21st at the Parker Playhouse in Fort Lauderdale. In April, you'll be at Carteret, New Jersey, at performing in a doo-wop show. When does it end? What keeps you ticking?
Well, I like I just like music and I like performing. I just did a show in Iowa. I think I told you that with at the Buddy Holly memorial show they have there every year. And I'm just going to keep going. I worked on a show once with the Comets. Remember Bill Haley and the Comets?
Of course.
And I asked them that question, and they said, "We're going to rock till we drop."
Going to rock around the clock tonight. We're going to rock to broad daylight, right?
Right.
I'll tell you, I don't know. I don't seem to feel that they're writing lyrics like they did back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Am I imagining that, or just feels like all the great lyrics came out of those eras?
There were a lot of good songs, also melodies, and you're right. There were just a lot of songs.
Yeah, no question. So how do people stay in touch with you, learn about all of your upcoming performances, and how do they get to listen to some of your songs, which I see you posted on your website?
Yeah, my website is brianhyland.com, and I'm on Facebook also, and just come if you see me advertise some in your town or whatever. Just come to the show.
Well, thank you so much for being on my show, and I can't wait to hear you live and in person next week.
All right. Thank you, Eli.
Thank you.